heard so many in this morning. Inspirational ones indeed, personal stories, and we had a young one telling us the power of stories, so much so that it can even challenge the current education system. And you would be hearing a lot of such stories during my talk. Not my story, but stories of many inspirational personalities. But before we start, let's embark on this journey from ideation to innovation. Let me ask you one question. What's the most resilient parasite? A bacterium, a virus, or are those the worms in our intestines? Not always, sometimes. With our recent experience, we might believe that it's a virus. The pandemic taught us, right? But actually, it's none of those. It's an idea. An idea, once it takes hold of your brain, it is very difficult to eradicate. An idea is contagious, it's resilient. Once it is fully understood, fully formed, that sticks right in there somewhere. And these are the words from an all-time mind-bending movie called Inception, and the words were spoken by none other than Leonardo DiCaprio, a very inspirational Hollywood actor. But do all ideas stick? Are all ideas strong enough to be resilient? Unfortunately not. Why do some individuals are able to generate great ideas one after the other and transform them into masterpieces? We'll get to this question in a while, but let's first see some examples of how brilliant ideas are generated. When Titanic sunk, there were many survivors. Among them, there was one called Mr. William H. Tightoller. Mr. Tightoller, even though he survived the death, was devastated. He was disappointed, but because he could not save many other lives. By the way, he was also the second officer on the ship. And the problem he saw was the evacuation wasn't smooth enough, and the reasons being the evacuation, the exit paths, were not clearly demarcated. So he came up with a lot of proposals instead of sinking into his disappointment, how to improve evacuation in large establishments. With many such proposals, they ended up into a very humble exit symbol, which we see today in many shopping malls, hospitals, and large establishments, which hold a large number of people at any point in time. And this is how it looks. And next time you see this anywhere, you can thank Mr. Lightoller. Unfortunately, some ideas are born out of tragedies, but not all of those. Here's another one. This is Sputnik, the first ever human-made satellite launched by Russia. Once this satellite was launched, there were few scientists in Maryland, USA, who were trying to track the signals from this satellite, which eventually they were able to do. And after listening to these signals over a certain period of time, what they came up with is a pattern which could tell them the position of this satellite around the axis of the Earth. When it moved farther, it was strong. When it was nearer, it was weaker. So they took this discovery to their supervisor, and the supervisor was astonished. He couldn't sleep, and the next morning, he walked up to the scientists and asked them if they can do the reverse. Which means, if they have a satellite in space, can they track an object on the surface of the Earth? And that's how GPS was born, another brilliant idea. But again, the question is, why not all ideas stick? Why are they not strong enough to be resilient? Let's understand this with an analogy. What you see on the screen is a mischievous monkey swinging from one branch of a tree to the another, throwing bananas at you. What would you like to do? Catch as many bananas as possible, isn't it? But it's not humanly possible, because to do that, you will have to match the acrobatics of this wild creature. So you will end up catching very few bananas. And like this wild creature is how your subconscious mind also works. It's always at work. Always thinking about history and the future. There have been some speculative studies which suggests that there are about 60,000 thoughts generated in an average human mind every single day, which translates to hundreds of thoughts every few minutes. Imagine how many would have crossed this hall since the time I started talking. We need to control this mental menagerie. Mind you, many of these thoughts are actually brilliant ideas. Unfortunately, almost 95% of them are repetitions. Repetitions of our mishaps in the past or the worries of the future. Repetitions of our achievements in the past and aspirations in future. How do we control this? We need to slow it down. Now imagine a tranquil garden, blossoming with flowers. These flowers are ideas. And among them, there's one which stands out. How easy do you think would it be to just walk up to this flower and embrace its beauty and fragrance in your life? Sounds very easy, right? Unfortunately, it's like navigating a maze when it is pitch dark. So much so are we involved in these thoughts that we forget to be present in the present moment, right? Now, how do we build this tranquil garden? One thing is for sure, that all of us have this garden, just that the tranquility is missing. We just need to nurture the soil of our subconscious mind with awareness of the present moment. Many of us confuse meditation with sitting in one place with closed eyes and chanting some mantras, whereas immersing yourself in the present task, doing what you are doing at this moment, is also being meditative. We take pride these days in multitasking, whereas we should be ruthless to it. How are ideas generated? What are the other sources of ideas? We are aware of these words, right? Eureka, aha moments, light bulb, the moments of inspiration, but they are all rhetoric. I like the light bulb one, by the way. Mr. Edison, the inventor, wherever he is today, must be so happy that his invention is not just lighting up or illuminating the rooms, but also the corridors of our mind. There's one interesting anecdote I would like to share, which I came across recently. A boy, literally on his hands and knees, was searching for something under a street light lamp. A man standing across the street observed him for a while, and when he got a little anxious, he walked up to the boy and asked, "What are you looking for?" The boy said, "Sir, I lost a key and that's what I'm searching for." The man offered help, and the boy accepted with all the gratitude. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes went by, and the key wasn't found. It was still elusive. The man got impatient again and asked the boy, "Son, exactly where did you lose the key?" The boy said, "Sir, I lost the key at my home." The man was puzzled. "Then why are you looking for the key in the street?" The boy said, "Sir, I only have one light bulb at home, and it's blown out. It's pitch dark over there. How can I look for the key there? This is the nearest place where I could find light, and that's why I'm looking for it here." So hilarious. Now, why I call those moments as the moments of inspiration is because they are rhetoric. They treat the ideas which are formed in a moment, whereas the ideas are a network of neurons at an elemental level. These are a configuration which are formed over a period of time. It just strikes in some moment. And that's why all these moments are rhetorically florid. With this, I think we are at a nice segue wherein we have understood how ideas are generated, but let's see how these can be transformed into masterpieces, world-class products and services. By the way, this is how the network of neurons look like, and don't they look like parasites? Is there a chance for earlier tiny bits, which we saw the virus, the worms and bacteria? Do they stand any chance in front of these monsters? But no matter how monstrous they look, they are still thoughts. They are still an impulse unless and until put into action. and they die a slow death. And let's understand with some science how do these ideas die. So our brain is very complicated. It has many components, and we'll talk about two of them. There's one called limbic system. As soon as an exciting idea is generated, it goes into a celebratory mode. It generates the dopamine. The dopamine is also called as excitement hormones. Imagine you have an idea of starting a new business which could make you rich overnight. What would you like to do? Start that business next morning. You would all be ecstatic during the night if, let's say, the idea strikes you in the night. You would be dreaming, being rich, being a millionaire. But next morning, the moment you wake up, there's another part called as prefrontal cortex, which plays a spoilsport. It starts questioning, where are you going to arrange the capital from? What if you fail? Will your family, your relatives support you? And unfortunately, limbic system gives up, prefrontal cortex wins most of the times, not always, and the idea dies a slow death. So what do? Should we let the PFC always win? Or should we let the limbic system put us into a perpetual dream? And both are not favorable situations, right? So what do? We need to bring in harmony among all these components, especially these two. And there are techniques which can help us achieve that. And I'm not going to talk about all of these techniques. Many of us would have heard about these many times, isn't it? We all love stories, and I'm going to unfold another one here. Mr. Henry Ford, many of us would have heard about him, the founder of Ford Motors. Many of us drive Ford cars, right? Mr. Henry Ford was the pioneer of affordable cars in the United States. Unfortunately, at his young age, he did not receive any formal or any significant formal education. So when he was a successful entrepreneur, sometimes during World War II, there were quite a lot of newspaper articles demeaning Mr. Ford. And one of them actually called him an ignorant pacifist. Mr. Ford was saddened. He was deeply hurt. He filed a lawsuit against the newspaper. The suit was tried in courts, and Mr. Ford was himself asked to come into the courtroom, stand in the witness box, so that attorneys can question him and prove that he is ignorant. Mr. Ford complied, and the attorneys started questioning him. The questions like, who was Benedict Arnold? How many soldiers did British send to America during 1776 to crush the revolution there? To the second question, Mr. Ford answered, sir, I don't know the exact number, but I'm sure the number of soldiers which went to fight was much larger than the number which went back. And it's a stunning answer, right? But the attorneys were relentless. They kept questioning. After an hour of questioning, to an offensive question, Mr. Ford lost his cool. He leaned on the bar of the witness box, pointed the finger at the lawyer and said, "Rishte mein to hum tumhare papa lagte hain, par naam hai Shahenshah." Oh my God, what just happened? This is not what Mr. Ford said. It's just me being 6 foot tall, sometimes confuse myself as Amitabh Bachchan. So let me try it again. So the plot is, not the plot, it happened in real, but the plot over here is Mr. Ford leaned, pointed the finger, asked the question, or told the lawyer, you may be the best lawyer in this courtroom with all the general knowledge, but in my office, I have a series of electric buttons on my table. Pressing on any button, I can summon the best minds to answer any question I have, and I run an enterprise which allows me to hire more such best minds. Now you tell me, why should I clutter my brain with so much of general knowledge when I know how to make best affordable cars in this entire world? The courtroom was silenced. The lawyer was floored because these were not the words of an uneducated man. Mr. Ford was a person or a man of his own education. And what we saw in this story is few of these techniques being employed: specialized knowledge, how to make good cars, mastermind group, the buttons, the people Mr. Ford had who he could summon at any point in time. And Mr. Ford, of course, would have used all these techniques. He had a burning desire, the purpose, the faith, the perseverance to start a business and be successful. So hence, I don't want to talk about each one of those and put you in sleep here. Cortisol is the another hormone which brain generates to put you in boredom. So let's not do that. The journey is not about taming a wild creature or fighting any unknown villains, imaginary villains. It's all a game of mind, and hence the word Mindovation. Let me also debunk another myth here. Many of us believe that all the inventions and discoveries to be made or discovered in this world have already been done. And I would like to say this: the day has not yet arrived when you have your breakfast in Lonavala and eat your lunch in London, or when you finish your last meeting in Nevada and be with your family at dinner table on the same day. This world is hungry for ideas. And you are somewhere in the behind, can be the next chef to cook a mind-blowing recipe. So keep dreaming, keep creating, embrace ideation, embrace innovation, and most importantly, embrace Mindovation. Thank you.